Okay, hi, and welcome to the Meet Your Course Coordinator session for Semester 2 starts for the Master of Energy Systems. My name is Robert Gordon. I'm the degree coordinator for the Master of Energy Systems. I'm going to walk through a couple of important slides about information for your degree, mainly around the administration and logistics of your degree, but also what to expect. And as the session is recorded, it'll be distributed to people who are enrolled. And so if you're watching this outside of the session time, please feel free to send any questions you might have either directly to me or to or reply to the person who emails you this link, so that we can sort out any problems you might have. Well, as you well know, and I don't need to tell you, it's a very crazy time right now. We've completed our first semester of fully online delivery last semester. It went better than anyone could have expected, largely due to the flexibility and commitment of the students, and also the hard work from the academic and teaching staff. So we've ironed out most of the technical challenges and also made the opportunity to use some of the new resources available to us. So I think if you're just about to start the degree, if you're restarting the degree, there's a few people who began the degree a few years ago, you'll find a very different experience. One of the most important things that I can advise you before we get to the presentation is reach out and connect with your cohort as quick as you can. How do you find your cohort? Well, you need to get in touch with people who are sitting the first semester subjects. That can be a little bit tricky, but the main way to interact with other students in the degree is to join the Energy Students Association, MESA, and they will be able to put you in contact with other people who are doing the degree. This degree is a professional master's with the same kind of feel as an MBA. The coursework is hard. You work at a very high level, a very high pace, and so it makes a big difference to be connected, particularly when you're studying online. Let me share the presentation. Here it is, and I'll go to presentation mode. Okay, there we go. There's a registration link if anyone is attending. For the people who are attending right now, you can register by following this link. I've introduced myself. I normally give a bit more of a background for me and my journey, rather than just going straight into the logistics of how do you study at Melbourne. I came to this job in 2014, so 6 years ago now, with a view to taking over the management of this degree. But you should be aware when you go through your university journey that every academic that teaches you also has a double life. Everyone who's employed as an academic, any lecturer you encounter is also a researcher, and they're in this career because of the research work they do. And so my other world is that I work in combustion. I'm an experimentalist, and so very much as you'd imagine an experimentalist engineer or scientist, I have a lab and I wear a lab jacket and goggles. I have lasers and fire, but my context is trying to enable new and renewable fuels, trying to understand what happens if you put hydrogen into an engine, what happens if you put an alternative fuel into an engine. And my main world is gas turbine engines, particularly what's called industrial gas turbines for power generation. And as a result of my time here as well, I'm becoming increasingly involved in energy systems research, where you look at all the components of an energy system and try to understand how you would optimize the choices and the transitions to a low carbon economy. Prior to that, I've had a lot of different hats. I've worked in finance, I've worked in dot-com startups, I've worked in management consultancies, and I've also done academic work in Germany, in England, in Cambridge, and I ran the research division for Rolls-Royce industrial gas turbines in Montreal for a few years before I joined Melbourne. So that's me. happy to chat about other career paths if you get curious about different directions you can take from here. But let's get on with this session. There's a couple of links in this pack, and hopefully the pack itself will be distributed to you. You should have already found a number of links. You have the energy website, Master of Energy Systems website. There's the handbook. Now the handbook is effectively the Bible. If it's in the handbook, it has to be real. And so when you look for any of your subjects that you're going to study, that's the place to begin. It's also the place to find out who is the academic responsible for the subject if you've got any questions. And it is okay to email those people. There's also a link for the library guides. Now, you may not realize, it's very common for people to come to university and not realize that the library is not just the building. It's filled with research professionals. They're very, very, very good at their job and very keen. It's one of the few times where, when you reach out for the Ask Me kind of links, if you go to the university library page and you type in and you go to that Ask a Librarian, someone answers, and that person usually can solve your problem. And if your problem is trying to find more material on a thing or trying to access a database that has a paywall, they can make magic happen, and they're very committed and very excited staff. There's also what we refer to as a subject guide, which is a link, sort of a portal for links to all sorts of information about energy. So that link is there on the screen. The job of the degree is to take people from various quantitative backgrounds, so it could be finance, engineering, any number of directions, and give them the technical, economic, and environmental skill set that goes into decision making in energy. It can be done full-time or part-time. Again, if you're starting second semester, you by definition starting part-time. And you have to complete 150 points. You may have exemptions or advanced standing. Many people are pre-approved for advanced standing when they apply, but if you look at the core subjects, now this is the advanced standing, which is an exemption, only applies for the core subjects, so there's 8 of those. If you look at those and you start to get an understanding of the content and you think I've done this before, reach out to me so that we can discuss an application for advanced standing. As for enrollment, as I said, you can't get advanced standing for more than 50 points of subjects. You have a choice there. If you're approved, you don't have to take it. And the reason why I say that is you may want to keep subjects that you already know you're good at to keep your average mark high. And that has a particular impact. There's a point at the end of your core subjects where you are, if your marks are above 75 average, you're eligible for this subject called Energy Systems Project, which is a sort of an elite placement, vocational placement project where you end up spending the semester in an energy company. Although we've managed to do that virtually this semester, the semester that's just finished, it's one of the most valuable things I've seen come out of any degree structure in my life. If you choose to take it, you can either replace it with an elective or you can have a shorter, cheaper degree. The common subjects that get advanced standing, the mechanical and chemical engineers have advanced standing from, tend to get advanced standing from analyzing energy systems. Electrical engineers tend to get advanced standing from electrical power systems, and business and finance majors tend to get advanced standing from economics and finance. Talk to me if you have timetable clashes, talk to me if you need to change subjects, talk to me about any of these choices. In terms of timeline, we've had our whole year is sort of shifted by about a week or two. And so it's important to be familiar with the key dates for your subject. There are 2 links down here, but if you search key dates Unimelb in Google, you'll come to this page. The important dates to be aware of, I'll just highlight in this sort of pinkish box down the bottom right corner. The semester begins on the 3rd of August. The last date to self-enroll in a subject is the 14th of August. That's where your portal lets you. If you miss that date, talk to me and talk to Stop One. all sorts of magic can be arranged, but you don't. You need to talk to someone to arrange things. There's what's known as the census date. This is the date where the university works out how many subjects you're enrolled in, so that they can work out how much you're charged. And then there's a last date to withdraw without fail, and that's been moved all the way back to 16th of October, which is right towards the end of semester. The semester ends 1st of November, then you have your exam periods. Managing enrollment online, you have access to your own student portals. If you need to change anything, the mechanism for that is called enrollment variation, or a variation of enrollment, which you can find through your student portal. There's a variety of self-managed things and something where you need an EV. So move subjects on my study plan and waive a prerequisite are the kind of things where you need permission from me, from the subject coordinator of your subject, and then you talk to Stop One, which is the student center, to make the changes happen. So just getting an approval letter doesn't make the changes happen. You have to complete the process all the way through to the end. In terms of degree structure, there's 8 subjects or 100 points of core, and then there's 50 points or 4 subjects of electives. 3 of them happen. 3 of them happen at the start. Sorry, one of them is I got that back to front. One of them happens in the first year, typically, if you're doing a full-time workload, and the other 3 happen in the final semester. So here's an example. The subjects that are on this list on the screen right now are pre-approved, so they'll appear as available in your student portal, and you can just click on them. If you are able to take up to 2 subjects that are not on this list instead, but you need my approval and you need the approval of the subject coordinator for that subject before you approach Stop One. So that's when you would do a variation of enrollment or an EV form. So again, if you have subjects that you're curious about, ask me. I've got quite a bit of experience for the subjects offered by the university. Sometimes, mostly the answer is yes. Sometimes the answer is no, if that subject covers material that we know is already covered by the core subjects. Now, some of you have already been studying at University of Melbourne previously. If you're new to the university, there's a lot of study differences, and there's even more now that COVID's here. There's you need quite a bit of the class time can be a bit unscheduled sometimes. In terms of it can be much more freer conversation. The learning is what is referred to as self-directed learning, which means that you're provided material, but that material in the lecture isn't the end of the subject. It is absolutely essential that you go reaching out to learn more about the topics that you're involved in. You'll find that during your assessments. So in your assessment time, you might do the work that's in front of you and realize you need to be reaching out for more resources, reaching out for more conversation. Talk to your lecturer. Understand the expectations. Talk to your tutors. Understand what the hard bits are. Find out where the resources are. Talk to me if you get stuck. Talk to the librarian. The librarians have been supporting the degree for 6 years now. They have an idea what's around and what information can be accessed. The other thing that's important to discuss before you restart is an expectations around what grades you can get. If you're an excellent student hits low 80s. So that's the H1, the first class honours. Some universities set 85 as the first class honours, which is different to the sort of 90s and 100s. Sometimes a journey of an excellent student that can come from academic backgrounds where 90s and 100s says you're excellent. If you maintain an average above 80 from the University of Melbourne, people look at your degree and go, my goodness, how did you pull that off? So the threshold mark is a little bit different, and it's important to keep that in mind. The 50 is still what's considered to be the pass mark, and there are sections in between there. Now, the examinations happen, as I said, the examinations happen at the end of semester, so after semester finishes in November. Usually 3 weeks are set aside for the examinations to occur. let's assume that COVID continues and we have an entirely online semester. It used to be the case that it was expected that students were physically present. Now, we can't enforce that. We don't take roll and sort of check when you're turning up. But there's one time when you absolutely must be expected to be, when you absolutely must be in Melbourne, and that was the exam dates. Now, COVID pushed the delivery of the content online, which also meant the examinations went wholly online for the first time in the history of the University of Melbourne last semester. So we've tested this system already. As a result of all those changes, for some international students, approval has been given to return to home country and study entirely online. Now, it's very hard because time zone shifts make all sorts of complications. But if you're based in Melbourne, you should be aware that the semester isn't considered to be finished until the result of the publication of the results, which happens in semester 2. It happens 11th of December. So that this page is maybe not so relevant this semester. It is information that's relevant if we get past COVID and we start to have mixed mode subject delivery, and if we go back to having physical examinations, it is important to remember that there's an expectation you're supposed to be physically in the city. There are a lot of library skills. You may not even realize there's stuff that you should learn. It is worth, I really, really recommend this. I've been always surprised and always amazed by the amount of resources provided by this university that are of amazing quality. Join up in Canvas, which is the learning management system, LMS. Join up with the research skills communities. So basically what you're looking for is COM 01074. And also have a look through the various web pages associated with research skills. There is there's an academic skills session on Tuesday the 28th. That's a Zoom session, naturally. So log in and learn. I find these things are best if you can attend, because there might be questions that are asked either in the chat or verbally. And if you have things to ask, it's a lot easier just to get it all done in a group, and you learn from the points of view of other people who are attending. There's a message here on the screen right now about academic misconduct, and it's something to be very aware of. The only thing the university takes seriously, I don't mean it like that. One of the things that the university takes very seriously is this concept of academic misconduct. It's one of the few things that can get you kicked out, or make a good semester into a fail. And it's really, if you think about it, it's really a code word for cheating. But there's a lot of different ways that it can occur. One of them is plagiarism, which is to say submitting somebody else's work as yours. And the other is collusion, where 2 or 3 people are working and then they submit the same information. Now, this is challenging because there's also a focus on skill sets of working in groups. And so it's important to be clear about what your contributions have been. You can't just coast in a group. You have to be contributing. And often in group work, there's also a secondary thing that gets submitted where the group members comment on the contributions of the members. There's also a lot of support for trying to understand what it means to be submitting someone else's work as your own. So, if you've seen these conversations around citation and referencing, if you've ever written an essay or any academic piece of work and someone said, hey, you didn't provide enough support or citations or references, that's the world we're talking about. There's a lot of information about this topic because it's so important to the university. For an academic, it's our lifeblood. We do research, we submit the research for publication, and then people look at the work, and if they say this has been done before, it's not just that our work doesn't get published, our credibility doesn't exist anymore. And so we come from a world where we take this very seriously. The reason I tell you this is it means there are people you can ask for advice who live this topic. So ask, don't work in a mystery, don't work in the dark about this. If you are uncertain, reach out to your lecturer and say, this is how I was planning to present my work. Should it be done differently in the view of plagiarism or citations or references or whatever? Now that's the degree specific stuff. There's a few pages here now which deal with Stop 1 and the student services, how to find them, where to find them, and what they can do. So I'll tap through this information and then I'm going to pause. So the Stop 1 is the Student Services Centre. You can reach it online. It used to be, obviously, there's a physical location at the corner of Grattan and Swanston. For the Parkville campus, there's also one in South Bank, but the one that's relevant to our degree is the Parkville one. But you can call them and you can access all of them online. They provide support services, skills development, health and well-being. If you have trouble with your landlord, trouble with your rent, some kind of legal problem, if you need counselling, if you need anything about your enrolment, anything about the fees and that you pay. Just a moment, everyone. Just a moment, everyone. My son has come to give me a cuddle, which is part of the COVID teaching. You'll see a lot of your academics' children. I guarantee you this. Support services, particularly international student support services, SEDS, which is students with a disability, elite athletes, Indigenous students. So everything that's on the screen there, you talk to Stop 1 about. I'm going to just highlight one thing about counselling. There's still an ongoing stigma associated with seeking or reaching out for psychological or counselling services, which is unfair because it leaves you in a situation of, even though there is help available for you, you don't want to go and get it. There's a big sort of mystery around it. And the thing that doesn't make sense to me is, if you had a car and it wasn't running right, you go to a mechanic and get it fixed. If you have a house that needs a repair, you would get someone in to help you with that. Even if you had something that's running perfectly fine, you still might get it checked up from time to time. All these physical things we look after, but the most important thing academically is right here, and we don't look after it. 1/3 of graduate students will experience some kind of psychological poor health, all the way up to full-blown depression and various other things. And the counselling services provided by the university, which are free and confidential, are skilled at helping students with their problems. Now, I don't mean you can only go if you have some kind of academic problem, but they have people who have been exposed to the kind of stuff that goes on for people like me, the kind of stuff that goes on for people like you. And so use these services. If things aren't running right, if you're struggling to focus, if you're struggling to find motivation, if you're struggling to pull your ideas together, any of these things that would be the mechanical equivalent of my car's making a funny noise, or my computer screen has started to wobble, or my internet's a bit broken, go seek help. Okay. Onwards, this is all the different ways you can access. I'm going to tick on a few pages relatively quickly. These are the physical locations. The main one physically that will be relevant to us if you're able to get back onto campus one day is there at the corner of Swanston Street tram stop here, and that's why it's called Stop 1. The tram stop is actually stop number 1 on the Melbourne lines. These are other short links to the health service, the wellbeing service, so counselling, CAPS, counselling and psychological services is what I was referring to before, and then some other helpful online pages. Use these, really. Like at least know what's in them. Click on the links at least once at the start of your degree, so that you're aware of what the university provides, and all of it is being provided for free. Special consideration is the other end of that. If things are not going well around assessment time, whether it be assignments or exams, the most critical thing to know is there is a time window for an exam or an assessment, up to 4 days after the event. Which is to say, if you have a shocker of an exam, you can't apply for special consideration after you see the result. If you have anxiety and stress, if you have some physical issues, if you're having fights with your flatmates, if you're depressed because of COVID, and you know that leading up to the exam, go see someone so that you have documented evidence of this so you can apply for special consideration. This is the support that comes from the university to let you be assessed at your best. If you believe that you are not operating at your best come assessment time, seek this process. It won't come to you, right? It won't come to you. A listing of all the different things that can be arranged. And it doesn't even need to be a new exam. It can be just more time to do your exam. It can be specialist equipment. It can be different exam arrangements, due dates, changing due dates, getting extensions for assignments. Now here's a few of the other pages, a few Facebook connections as well. And that is the end of that presentation. I'm going to stop sharing now, and I'm just going to see if there's anything else anyone wants to ask. We are done with, that's my daughter. We're done with the recording, so I'm going to stop the recording. Please send me messages, ask me questions if you have anything you need to know.